is the world-famous skyline of New York City. Well, a part of it. A part that nobody ever sees. Coney Island is actually in the city of New York. But nobody who's been to Coney Island has ever seen nobody at Coney Island. Because this clean, so clean, empty beach, with the trash baskets lined up at attention in perfect rows, looks like this only once a day, when the big city's still in bed. The beach and this painted village lying quiet in the early morning sun is Coney Island. New York swelters in the summer, and as the sun rises higher in the hot sky, millions of people leave the baking streets and go down to the seaside, down to Coney Island, USA.
I always found acting boring, because there's not enough to do. You do it, and then you're finished, and now what are you going to do, you know? They would go back to the office to do rewrites and changes and all that kind of stuff. So I would go into the booth and listen when I wasn't on in the scene, and then I'd go back to the office, and they'd let me sit there with them when they were doing rewrites and cuts. So I got interested in all of it, and when I started working on suspense, Spear asked me, because I was writing suspense in addition to acting on it, I wrote some of them, and I edited a great many of them. And Spear had to go away, and he asked me if I wanted to direct it, and I said, yeah, sure. So I directed one, and then the CBS people wanted to do Broadway Is My Beat, which had been on in the East. They wanted to move it out here, and they needed a producer-director. Morton and David Friedkin were going to write it, and we cooked up the idea of scoring it with a jazz orchestra and got Sandy Courage for that. I all of a sudden was directing a show every week.
Broadway's My Beat, from Times Square to Columbus Circle, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world.
Broadway Is My Beat, the exciting drama of people who walk the Great White Way, with Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover.
Afternoon sun strikes glints on Broadway's pavements, and the perfumes of summer drift in from meadows never known, from tropic seas that were never sailed, from green hills veiled in mist and imagined in childhood, drift and die against neon bled at its color. But the illusion still rides the silken vessel of a girl's summer frock, and the season dances in her slow, languid walk, and her passing is reflected in chrome and steel. There's crowd between you and her, and there's loss. So walk away from it, kid, and order the beer and skim off the longing. Summer, too, will finally pass from Broadway. And for the policeman, there's this, the corridor to be walked, the corridor at whose end lie the anonymous dead, the unclaimed dead. Walk it and push open a swinging door that opens onto the city's morgue. Stand for a moment against the stillness and move into it.
Over here, Danny. This one.
What about him? Fill me in, Muggavan.
It's a summer's day, Danny, and you and I have
Don't cry about it, kid. Just tell me, huh?
Well, this is the one they brought in yesterday, Danny. One those boys and girls found buried in the sand on Coney Island. When they dug him out, they also found a knife wound in his chest. Made them sad. They turned off their portable radio, stopped dancing.
You identify him yet?
Yeah, that's why I called you.
All right, you called me.
The man was in his beach trunks, no wallet on him, no bundle of clothes, not even a locker tag.
You want me to compliment you on how hard you worked for his identity?
Yeah, it would be nice. All he had was some numbers tattooed on his arm. The kind they were, their sequence, I figured they were Social Security types, so I checked the agency in Baltimore. They had him in their files. He used to work Coney's. Just came in on the teletype.
Who is he?
A man by the name of Joey Croft. Now runs a Palace of Fun down in Coney. Him and a partner. I checked on the partner. They tell me a dish, Danny. A dish by the name of Letty Scott. You going to talk to her? Coney on a nice day. Sure you will.
And leave the place of the tagged and catalogued dead, the clean and quiet room where death is pigeonholed, accounts current for homicide. Leave there and out into beginning twilight, and the drive now to Coney, And Coney Island on a mild summer's evening is carnival, is pink cotton candy and things that spin and things that whirl. And Coney is 10 shots for a quarter, and guess your weight, and down-rushing rides and carousel. Giddiness, laughter, hot dogs, arcades, and Little Egypt's oldest granddaughter. Ask a question of a man in a harlequin suit who needed a shave, and be directed to some steps and a frosted glass door to an office. Top.
Come in. Hi.
Hello.
Well, thanks.
For what?
For the stare. What else do you have on your mind?
I'm from the police. My name's Danny Clover.
I asked you something.
Yeah, you did. It's about Joey Croft.
All right, it's about Joey Croft. Sit down, wait for him. Go ahead, do that. I'm his partner. He seems surprised he sees you sitting in his chair. When he comes in, say Letty said you were to do that.
Joey's dead. He was found yesterday on the beach, Miss Scott, dead, stabbed to death. He's in the morgue.
Let me alone, will you?
All right.
Let me alone. Dead?
That's right. Murdered.
What, a fight, an argument with somebody? Joey's temper... How? Who did it?
We don't know. What about you?
Are you kidding?
Did you kill him?
I'm the girl who used to ride elephants. That makes me kind to all animals and nearly all people. And I was real kind to Joey. I don't go around killing him.
Where were you yesterday?
Here, all day. I was here all day, mister. Listen, you, I can prove it. I did... What am I yelling for? Ask around. I was here all day.
Let's assume that, Miss Scott. Let's assume you were here. You didn't kill Joey. Partner. You must have known him pretty well.
You just said it. I was his partner.
What about it, then? Who didn't like him?
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to get somebody in trouble because I knew Joey pretty well, and I'm going to miss Joey. Find yourself a boy named Fred Moore, and I'll tell you where to find him.
Who's Fred Moore?
He once worked here in a clown suit on his way to being a geek. Stole some dough. Joey screamed. They took off Fred's clown suit and dressed him like they do in Dannemora. Fred got 3 years. Now he's out.
You said you knew where to find him. Where?
Seagirt. I took a walk down there a week or so ago. Saw Fred sitting on a porch, rocking in a chair. The hotel there, the Ocean Rest. He waved to me, I waved to him. He got up from his rocker. I walked away fast. Ask him what you asked me. Ask him, did he kill Joey Croft?
And tell her you'll do that when you find him. And tell her to stay close to her palace of fun. All hers now, no partners. Because you'll want her to be there if there's need to come back. And leave her. Leave the taunting that lies close on her lips and changes color as neon spins. And on the ride to Seagirt, Carnival ebbs. It sounds muted as lights flung against the darkening, mist-laden skies and holds. And at the edge of laughter, the hotel, Ocean Rest. Its paint scarred, blistered, peeling. On its screen porch, a row of frayed and empty rockers swaying to the tides of night wind.
Broadway Is My Beat first took to the air from New York on February 27th, 1949, starring Anthony Ross and directed by John Dietz. CBS executives thought the show sounded flat. They moved production to Hollywood beginning July 7th and turned its direction over to Elliott Lewis.
Radio demands that you pay attention. You must listen. It's very rewarding because once you become involved...
So issue an all-points bulletin on Fred Moore. Go home, sleep out night. And in the morning, come back to Ocean Rest.
Want me to stay out here, Danny?
Yeah, wait.
Don't go inside, you.
What?
Out here is better. You're the police fella asking around the cleaning woman last night.
That's right. You, Mr. Zabrowski?
I didn't catch no fish in case you would care to ask. You don't care, huh?
I'm looking for Fred Moore.
Freddy the geek, Freddy the guzzler, Freddy the ex-con. How a man can do such things to his body. Go find the geek.
Your cleaning woman said he checked out. When?
Maybe 2 nights ago. Maybe same 2 nights ago on day Joey Croft was killed. I read this morning's paper. I say to me, was this same 2 nights ago Joey Croft was knifed? And Freddy checked out the next night the police fellow? Freddy killed a man.
You know where he went?
I was strong man once, police fellow. Look at me. You could believe it?
I asked you if you knew where Fred
Strong man. Broke chains across my chest at carnivals. So it does not matter to me where killers run to hide. I do not care. I go fishing.
What makes you so sure he's the killer?
He told me. He said to me, Zabrowski, this Joey Croft wronged me. Put me in prison. Wronged me. I fix him. This he said to me on this porch. I do not argue. I do not discuss with private matters of geeks. I give money to geeks for booze. I am their friend.
When did he say all this to you?
First day he come here to Ocean Rest. Say, put me on cuff. Soon I have much money. I laugh how geek can get such money. He told me. He say he fix Joey Croft. I called Joey, tell him to walk soft because
Danny?
geek is...
What do you want, Muggavan?
Just come over the radio. Somebody spotted Fred Moore.
Citizen spotted him on West 16th, Danny, in Manhattan.
Okay, let's go.
Larry Thor starred as Danny Clover, with Charles Calvert as Tartaglia and Jack Kruschen as Muggavan. This episode, the Joey Croft Murder Case, was broadcast on Saturday, June 23, 1952, at 9:30 p.m.
Hey, you the cop, huh? Who are you? I discovered him, Mac. I'm the kid that found Fred Moore.
Where is he?
Up there, second floor. He's in the front.
Come on, Muggavan.
I was walking down the street out front, made a purchase at the drugstore, including a newspaper, so right next to the box scores is this picture in the paper. This man wanted for questioning in connection with murder. Then walking back down the block, there he is, going into here. And the shades went down from that room there. You've been a big help, mister. You just walk down the other end of the hall and wait there. Hey, now look, I'm the kid that discovered him.
Walk.
Sure.
Fred, open up. It's the police.
Lights come in front of the door.
Try the knob.
Drunk. Here, smell this, Danny. Pretty lousy bourbon. What's the matter? He's Fred Moore, isn't he? He's the man we were...
Yeah, he's Fred Moore.
Not drunk, huh?
No. He's dead.
The show's chief scriptwriting duo was Morton and David Friedkin. They wrote poetic prose fit into the gritty world of the sardonic, case-hardened detective.
Morton and David Friedkin, and starring Larry Thor.
Mr. Fine was interviewed by Dan Haefle of SPERDVAC on August 9th, 1988.
Broadway Is My Beat is the first series you wrote regularly. Was it your idea or your and David's
No,
idea?
as a matter of fact, it had been done before David and I got hold of it. It was done out in New York. And the Mavens in New York felt that whoever was writing it in New York was not capturing the flavor of New York, so they brought it to Hollywood, where two other writers caught the flavor, allegedly, of New York by sitting down in Hollywood and writing. Larry Thor, marvelous man. We were good buddies. And a music anecdote about Larry, which is revealing as the kind of pixie character he was in real life. He wanted to know what time it was. So he called the operator and asked her what time it was. And she wouldn't tell him. He got back on the phone, asked for long distance. He wanted to talk person to person with his brother Magnus Thor in Reykjavik, Iceland. And he asked her what time it was there. He wanted to know whether he was calling at a proper hour. She told him. He then subtracted 9 hours from that and found out what time it was in Hollywood.
The summer day on Broadway is a slow carousel, and the mob walks in dream time, easy, and stops there to watch the juggler and the pancakes spinning in the window. And there, the spectacular and death-defying act of the jaywalker. And walks again, stops again to drink at the enameled and lighted fountain of eternal orange juice. It's the languid time on Broadway, the easy smile time. And it's clown and a girl blowing kisses. The end of the fabulous ride that costs only a dime.
Formula was, don't let the cop ask the proper question in the second scene of the first act or you would have no story. Hold that question off until your penultimate scene, the scene before the denouement, and that's when you have your story. separate that, the time when it should have been asked, and it could have been asked very easily, to when it was actually asked 20 minutes
right
later.
here where the blood is. You're not going to fight me on that, are
You
you?
heard me, just maybe, Muggavan. Oh, go call the boy who spotted Fred.
Yeah.
Hey, you. Me? Yeah, come in.
In here. Here he is, Danny.
What's your name?
I wasn't wrong, huh? That's Fred Moore, all right?
Lieutenant asked you something. What's your name?
Ray, I'm Ray Kendall. Hey, what's the matter with him? What's all... Let me out of here.
Just take it easy, Mr. Kendall.
He hurt bad? He dead?
Anybody else walk in or out of this apartment house while you were standing outside?
Sure. I guess so.
You guess so or you know?
I'm no cop. I said sure, I guess so, because I guess so.
Can you describe anybody who went in or out?
I don't know who went in that house. I see a wanted guy. I'm supposed to be a deputy or something. I'm supposed to walk up to him and say, hey, Buster, no more of that. You're pinched. I'm a guy, that's all. I don't do things like that. Me, I'm scared to death half the time, and you expect me to get...
Yes?
This is the second time I called. Nobody answered the first time.
Who is this?
I'm Nora Forrest. You're in my apartment.
Where will I find you, Miss Forrest?
Not far. I'll be in East River Park, one of the park benches on 23rd.
Stay where you are. I'll be right there.
Broadway Is My Beat featured Hollywood radio talent like Barney Phillips, Virginia Gregg, Tony Barrett, Herb Butterfield, Betty Lou Gerson, Averback, Cathy Lewis, Harry Bartell, Lawrence Dobkin, Mary Jane Croft, and Herb Vigran, who in this episode portrayed the hotel manager.
I used to do a show called Head of Hopper's Bread House. And there was a guy on the show by the name of Gerald Moore. And he kind of took a liking to me. We got very friendly. And Jerry Moore thought I should be doing a lot more than I was. So he set up an appointment with Ken Hansen, who was at that time Glenn Hall Taylor's assistant. Anyhow, so Jerry Moore set up this appointment for me with Ken Hansen. And I went up to the 6th floor of the Equitable Building where Young and Rupcam had their offices. I waited, and it got to be 10:30, and I waited, and it got to be 11, and it got to be 11:15, and it got to be 11:30, and it got to be 11:45, and I said, I don't care how poor I am and how broke I am, I got a little bit of dignity left.
You waited another hour and a half.
I finally said, I'm not going to wait any longer, and I pressed the button on the elevator. When the elevator stopped, Ken Hansen got off. And he apologized profusely, and he said his wife had taken sick, and he had to take her to the hospital, and he couldn't get to a phone, which was all true, of course. And he really was sorry, and he says, come on in. And we had our little talk, and I showed him some stills from some movies that I'd done, which is great for radio. Right? Yeah. Kind of impressed him a little bit. And he said, Glenn Hall Taylor is having an audition at 1 o'clock, which it almost was by that time. He says, and he's already called everybody, but come on over there with me. I'm late for getting there myself, and I'll sneak you in the audition. I went over there, and they handed me a script, and everybody was sitting out in the hall, Studio C at CBS over by Gower. And it said, for the part I was supposed to do, Western. Jerry Moore came out. He was auditioning, too, for one of the leads, and he came out, and he said, listen, he says, don't pay any attention to what it says in the script. He says, you just go in there and play Herb Vigran. So I went in there. True Boardman had written it. And I went in there. I got up and I read it. And the first line out of my mouth, everybody fell on the floor, laughing. And I didn't know why. And that was the first time I realized that my voice was just a little bit different than everybody else. I really didn't know, because I was trying to be a dramatic actor, you know. Geek is geek way to die.
What did you think of Fred, Letty?
What Zabby said.
Why did you visit him at Dannemora?
My little girl don't visit geek.
Twice, just before he was released. Why, Letty?
Business.
What business?
Oh, don't worry about it, sugar. Just you and I, 1 minute from now.
You got real tired of your partner, Joey Croft, didn't you?
Yeah, I got real tired of Joey Croft. It happens to me. Don't you worry about it, Zabby. It takes a long time.
Man like Fred, no friends, in prison for 3 years. A girl like you, a beautiful girl, comes to visit him.
Something, huh? Second time I was there, the boys in cell block 8 beat their cups against the bars. Sure, I went there, Danny. Had a talk with Fred. It impressed him.
Made him promises and got him to kill Joey.
Zabby, how long can you stand this, sugar?
Wait.
All right, sugar. I'll tell you the rest, Danny. Fred killed Joey Saturday when he got out. Then Fred came to me and I gave him a bottle of booze for his trouble. When I sent him away, he felt like a man. That's how drunk he was.
Then wandered over to see a girl he'd known a long time ago, Nora Forrest. He could face her now. He'd accomplished something. He died. Let's go, Letty.
Sit there, honey, baby. You police fellow, Letty don't go with you. She do nothing.
She bought herself a murder.
You do that, Letty?
Get him. Break him for me, Zabby, like you used to do to Chains.
Yeah.
He's spoiling your party, Zabby. Get him.
Such thing to do to geek.
Get him!
You're not pretty anymore. Take her away, police fella.
It's the happy time on Broadway. It's after the movies. Nobody wants to go home. It's a place strung against the night like a phosphorescent alley. And they're heaped there. The golden girl, the bright-eyed kid, the man with promises, and the guy who believes it. It's Broadway, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world. Broadway, my beat.
Unfortunately, dramatic radio was in decline. In 1950, 46 network shows had an average rating higher than a 10. 2 years later, there were only 4. Coney Island was suffering a similar fate. In 1949, Robert Moses had much of the land rezoned for housing projects. He also moved the boardwalk back from the beach several yards, demolishing many structures, including the city's municipal bathhouse. Moses would clear several blocks of amusements for both the New York Aquarium and the Abe Stark ice skating rink. More land was taken by Moses than needed, and for decades much of the old amusement area surrounding the boardwalk was a mess of vacant, weed-overgrown lots. In 1950, electronic games at Coney's arcades were banned. 4 years later, the old Feltman's restaurant, predecessor to Nathan's, was auctioned. Although Broadway Is My Beat was noted for its gritty plots and tremendous narrative, the show failed to generate much sponsor interest. It limped on, scheduled erratically, and dropped often, before finally going off the air after the August 1st, 1954 episode.